Call the meeting to order, please. Stand for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. And with the roll call, starting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Here.
I'm here.
Here.
Mike Smith, Commissioner Stephen, Commissioner Colson.
Here.
All present and accounted for. Public comment. There's no one signed up for public comment today, so we will move on to administrative business, beginning with a couple of proclamations. Beginning with Economic Development Week. Whereas communities rely on economic development professionals to promote economic well-being and quality of life. For the communities within Leavenworth County, that means coordinating activities that create, retain, and expand jobs in order to facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas economic developers stimulate and incubate entrepreneurship in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of the American economy. And whereas economic developers are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including rural and urban, local, state, provincial, and federal governments, public-private partnerships, chambers of commerce, universities, and a variety of other institutions. And whereas economic developers attract and retain high-quality jobs, develop vibrant communities, and improve the quality of life in their regions. And whereas economic developers work with communities and within Leavenworth County, Kansas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Leavenworth County recognizes May 8th through May 12th, 2023 as Economic Development Week and reminds individuals of the importance of this community celebration, which supports expanding business opportunities and making lives better. Dated this 3rd day of March 2023. Yeah. Is there any? Would you like to have anything to say before I move on? Come on up.
Nice try. Come on up.
I was trying to stay back. Thank you. Just that I'll know on behalf of LCDC, we appreciate the county's support. Thank you so much.
And we'll have this signed later and available, or get it delivered to you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, now we're moving on to Mental Health Awareness Month. This is a proclamation declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas nearly 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 5 adolescents in the United States live with a mental illness. And whereas mental health impacts a person's emotional, social, environmental, financial, and overall well-being with significant disparities among racially and ethnically diverse communities. And whereas suicide is now the second leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds, with teenagers experiencing a 17.3% increase in the use of anxiety medication since 2010. And whereas 1/3 of the United States population lives in a country designated as a mental health professional shortage area, and whereas an estimated 44% of residents detained in jails are suffering from mental illness, often with co-occurring substance use disorders, and whereas Leavenworth County and all counties serve as a safety net for residents in need, first responders, an operator of crisis lines, public hospitals, and detention centers. And whereas the Guidance Center has opened the Guiding Lights Crisis Stabilization Center, providing a flexible, secure, and structured treatment space to meet varying mental health and substance disorder needs. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the Leavenworth County Board of Commissioners declares May as Mental Health Awareness Month in Leavenworth County to highlight the critical role of the county in providing crucial behavioral health services and resources to its residents. And be it further proclaimed The Leavenworth County Board of Commissioners continues its commitment to partner with our community members to ensure that all mental health services are accessible, valuable, and culturally appropriate for all residences. Dated this third day of May 2023 by Vicky Cause.
Glad you caught that.
Thank you. I don't see anybody from the Guiding Light, so we'll
Important topic, though.
It is a very
Madam
important
Chair.
topic.
Something that we've approved on in this county.
Yes.
Yes, very much so, and much appreciated. Okay. Do you have anything for us in administrative business today, Mark?
Commissioners, it was brought to my attention that the Register of Deeds Office for 2 years in a row now has led all Kansas counties in the enrollment in property fraud alert system, and that I believe, if I'm doing the math correctly, nearly half of all parcels or property owners in Leavenworth County have registered for this.
Yeah.
So just want to bring that up.
Wow. Is that correct? 50% about?
It's about that. I'll be happy when we're 100%.
Well,
But I wanted to acknowledge my staff too.
absolutely.
Susan
Great job.
Drafts and Sean Hicks and Cindy O'Toole. They keep the office running when I'm out doing public education events. So
And you got the word out. Y'all done a great
Yeah.
job getting the word
Definitely got
out.
the word out.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you
congratulations.
very much. We appreciate
Thank you.
it.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for your
you.
staff. I hear really good reports.
oh, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay. Mike, do you have something?
I have a couple things.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, K-16 issues, closing the road. There's been a few issues, just to let you know, report to you on the, apparently Ryan Bear from KDOT had reported to Tim Smith and the EMS that they were going to have a alternate route for them to get around, to get up to the north part of the county past the fire station there on 16. And that is an issue. We met with them yesterday, and they are calling the contractor and trying to find a way to resolve this. But right now, they will have to drive a very long distance around to get to responses on Parallel Road and some of the other roads. So we're having a little issue there. Talked to Ryan Barrett about additional signage in Tonganoxie on 2440 to warn, to notify people, and they said that he agrees that is needed. So hopefully we won't get any pushback on that. Also, I wanted to inquire with the county councilor, and I visited with Bill, if it becomes necessary on 251st or Higwood Road after this closes and we find that we're getting excessive traffic, to put a road closed to through traffic, what would be the process for that happening, and how quick, what to make it administratively the quickest response if that is a problem?
Well, Commissioners, you have control over your county roads. However, that control is subject to engineering considerations. My suggestion would be that if the board feels this is an issue, that you ask your Public Works Director and his staff to evaluate it and, applying engineering standards, determine whether such signage would be appropriate. If you feel this could come up on an emergency basis that would take place prior to any regular meeting of the board, you could pre-authorize the Director of Public Works to make that determination if he felt that the engineering considerations warranted it.
So that's just an issue, because there's going to be where the it's just past Hatchell where they're going to close.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it in your GPS to go to McLeod, it's pretty much going to route you on Higwood Road and a very treacherous hill where we don't want to have excess amount of traffic.
But there is an official detour.
There is
signs that say this is an official detour. You need to use it.
Right, that is true.
But they're
That
public
is gonna be
roads.
there.
I understand they're public roads, and anybody can drive on them.
So on George Road, we voted on a resolution to
Dust control and close.
and close it. So if we monitor the situation after this happens and that becomes a real issue, I don't know if we should be proactive and authorize Bill to do whatever he needs to do.
I just think we need to. We meet once a week, so if there is a problem, we can deal with it.
Well, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that that's an issue, and this fire department issue is also an issue.
Well, luckily,
Well, they do
Tonka
have-
Township has a fire department on the south end of the project, and they got one on Dempsey Road, too.
Yeah, they're very concerned about it.
Well, I'm sure they are, but I was concerned when they closed Tonga Road for a year. That was a big issue then. But-
Well, I'm just bringing
I
to your
know.
attention what Tim brought to my
No,
attention.
it's every time there's a road closure, there is concerns. And this one is a state highway, I understand that.
So,
But anyways,
anyway, so that's an issue on that road. Also, I brought you a copy of this SCR 1611. This bill would cap property taxes at 4%. If the land if sold later and it was above market value, the new owner would go to market value. We had earlier, as a group, said we supported the rate of inflation plus 1 or 2%. I wondered if it would be appropriate. I just wanted to bring it at request that if we write a letter of concern to our legislators that we would like them to vote on this. The Senate has passed this. It just has to be passed through the House, and then it goes to the voters.
I think they all know how we feel.
Well,
We've been pretty, ones I've spoken to, and I know you've spoken to them.
I just think
And I know
we as a
Commissioner
body.
Culberson, I'm sure, has spoken with on the task force.
Yeah, so I'm on the task force with Karen Tyson, Senator Tyson, and this bill's changed like 10 times since it started out,
Yeah.
and it went from 3 to 5 to ended up at 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we could send a letter, and it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, and we had, Jeff was there with me, we had 50 people showed up to our local task force, and we showed them this bill, and it was unanimous. Of the 50 people, unanimous. So, I mean, if we send them a letter, at least they know our position
I know.
in writing. So
We don't get to vote on it.
I know, but we're the ones that are taking the heat
We
on
could probably
this.
fix the problem, but I'm saying it's out of our pay.
So
Great.
would it be all right if we have Mark draft us a letter?
Yeah, I'll sign it.
I have no problem with that.
I'll sign it.
You okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, and then I think
All
we
right.
can have a
Well,
consensus.
Commissioners,
Unless
I
it
could-
changes 4 more
I could
times.
certainly draft a letter. I might say that it would probably be more impactful if each one of you individually reached out to the local representatives, and I'm not
thank
sure when they're scheduled to vote on it, but I will work on that, but I would also.
Yeah, I think both.
I'd encourage you
We
to reach out
will
to
do that
them.
as well.
We do that. I think
So-
documentation's always good.
So, and on top of that, the other thing I was going to bring up is this, we had this meeting with Tonganoxie on 222nd Street. I was wondering, the money from FEMA that went back into the general fund, how much money was that?
That went to
That's
Jeff's
been
Road.
spent.
That's been, okay, I was just trying to
Jeff has
figure out.
reimbursed
No,
us
that's
for.
went to Jeff's Road.
I thought we reimbursed, that was reimbursed, right? That money came in and we'd already spent it in
And we
Public Works, and then we
remarked
remarked.
Jeff's roads.
Well, I'm just, so anyway, my question was to everyone is, should we have a process to kind of figure out how we're going to approach this?
I think
I think
do
we
that.
did the other night in the work session.
But we didn't, I don't think we have, who's going to be
What's Tonganoxie
negotiating?
offering?
Okay, well, I think that
We need
since
to have a
this is a
meeting.
discussion
We need
that
to
we
have a
need to
whole
have a
different
separate
deal
meeting
on
for.
that.
Maybe we need to have a
But
work session.
That would be fine, but we need to kind of stick to our
Right.
agenda so we
Yeah.
can, because this is
Yeah.
way off of the, but I agree, we need to have a work session
Right.
or dedicate some time within the meeting, a future meeting soon to discuss that, but I don't think that,
Well,
This
I
is
just
the
want to
time
raise
limit.
it because I think, I
Right.
don't want it to fall through the cracks. So
Well,
if
it's
we,
been falling through the cracks since they broke ground down there.
okay,
We're
well,
the ones that
that's,
got it going, but
so,
anyway.
so is it a work session?
Yep, I'd say so.
that's fine, if that's the consensus of the other members of the board. Okay,
That's all I have.
okay,
That's
You ready
all.
for the consent agenda?
anybody else
Been
have
ready.
anything? Yep.
Well, I just wanted to compliment Commissioner Stevens on his letter he put in the paper.
That was a very good letter.
That was a good letter. I don't always agree with what you put in the paper, but I
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, I'm ready for motion to
Madam
approve
Chair.
the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Okay, consent agenda is approved. We are at formal board action. We need to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2023-9, operating the formation of Fire District Number 2 and rescinding Resolution 2023-6. I think
Madam
there's an
Chairman, members of the
explanation
Commission, good morning.
there. Morning.
The issue of the formation of Fire District Number 2 is once again before you, and it will be before you yet again in a public hearing. It was noted after the resolution was adopted and the initial publication had taken place that the city of DeSoto's piece of territory that lies in Sherman Township was not taken into account. It was not taken into account by either the attorneys for the fire district nor myself. So with apologies, would caption this resolution is really something to move forward to avoid any misunderstanding as to who has fire protection jurisdiction over that section of the city of DeSoto that lies north of the Kansas River. Specifically, it's a golf course. It's not a large area, but it is not to be included within the fire district. We verified with the forming parties, that is the city of Linwood, Reno Township, and Sherman Township, that they had discussions with the city of DeSoto and that area was not to be included in the fire district. So consequently, this new resolution is required because part of the resolution sets out the territory of the fire district, and this resolution specifically excludes that section of Sherman Township that lies within the incorporated limits of the city of DeSoto.
Any questions?
Commissioner Stevens' area.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-9, creating the formation of Fire District Number 2, and rescinding Resolution 2023-6.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. I would call to your attention that a public hearing on this matter will be conducted by you on May 31st. And subsequent to that, should you continue to approve the formation, the fire district will be formed and the appropriate action will be taken to provide funding for fiscal year 2024.
So we're in good shape with the timelines.
Pardon?
We're in good shape with the timelines, David.
Closer than I would like, but we're in good shape for the time.
We should get by. Okay.
Told them they wasn't going to make it, but I've been wrong before.
Okay.
They really worked hard.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move down to next item is to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2023-7, a special use permit for rock hard yard art located at 2624 Golden Road.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
As mentioned, this is a request for approval of a special use permit. The business is for a retail sales and service business. More specifically, it is going to be an outdoor yard art sales business. The property in question, as mentioned, is located at 20624 Golden Road. That property is zoned rural residential 2.5, so this type of business would require a special use permit. On the property, there is an existing house with some accessory structures. They are proposing to open a yard where they will sell yard art and statuary to the public. They anticipate that this business will be open on the weekends, so I believe it's Friday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every weekend. They will have no commercial vehicles come to the site. They anticipate that they will use their personal vehicles to bring any statuary and yard art onto the property from their supplier. And then they do anticipate up to 5 visitors per day. This has been reviewed by county staff and its consultants, and it has found that it does not create enough traffic impact to require any additional traffic studies. In addition to that, this has been reviewed by other organizations within the county, and no significant concerns have been raised about the proposed business from utilities and such. KDOT did review this because this is adjacent to,
It's just right
K32,
there.
thank you. And their only concern was that no additional access be granted onto K32. They will not permit anything. They also just wanted to limit signage and all that along that frontage as well, which the applicant has indicated that they have no anticipation to do either. Otherwise, the Planning Commission did review this on April 12th, and they recommended approval on a vote of 7-0 with 2 absences. So if you guys have any further questions, I believe the applicant is in the audience, but happy to answer.
No, I went. You drove by it, didn't you?
Yeah. I'd like to move that we approve Resolution 2023-7, a special use permit for Rock Hard Yard Art located at 2624 Golden Road.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioners.
I'd just like to say, I
discussion?
went down and
Yeah.
looked at it, and it's, as long as they're not going to block the road with semis and have big
Right.
brush
Right.
fires or burn piles every day.
Gigantic roosters. Or
Yeah, well, no, but this is a great location because it's 32 highway, and then it's just a little short stretch, and then you hit Golden. It'll be fine. So, and the place looks nice. So,
Yep.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we need to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2023-8, an amendment to Article 19 of the Leavenworth County Zoning and Subdivision Regulations, removing discrepancies pertaining to public and private utilities.
All right. Before you is a request to amend our table of uses in the zoning and subdivision regulations. As outlined in the staff report, we were notified by Evergy that they would like to establish a utilities or an electric substation on a property. However, when we were reviewing our regulations, we noticed that we had some discrepancies, specifically to electric substations and also water towers. So we went through and tried to figure out where that discrepancy occurred. It appears back in 2020 when we did update the regulations, we did not take out some of the existing uses to accommodate for the new proposed ones. So we are here just to remedy that for you. Staff has recommended that you strike 2 of the electric substation use categories and go with the existing public and private utility substations. That includes everything from cable, petroleum products, telephones, and private water towers, and then keep the existing public utilities in regards to the drinking towers and other utility substations that are within them. So, again, this was reviewed by the Planning Commission on April 12th. They did recommend approval of 7-0 with 2 absences.
Any questions, concerns?
No.
If there's not, I'll make a motion to approve Resolutions 2023-8, an amendment to Article 19 of the Leavenworth County Zoning and Subdivision Regulations, removing discrepancies pertaining to public and private utilities.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, now we're to case number DEV-23-047, a temporary special use permit for Whiskey Ridge Event Center. We need to open, no, we don't, we'll get a description first and then open the public hearing. Is that the way?
I'd accept a staff report first, Commissioner.
Yep, okay. Staff report, please.
All right. Before you is a request for a temporary special use permit. Per our regulations, this would qualify as a Type 6, which requires approval by the Board of County Commissioners, so we're here before you to hold the hearing. This temporary special use permit is requested on behalf of Whiskey Ridge LLC to hold 2 events on May 7th and May 27th at their structure. The events will be held from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. again on May 7th and May 27th. And then they requested additional cleanup time the following day, so we put a limit of 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. on May 8th and May 28th. So it's just for those 2 dates with the additional cleanup time. They are proposing to hold events for up to 250 people. They have an existing parking lot on the property that should accommodate all of the required parking for these events. This, again, has been reviewed by county staff and our consultants, and all of the major concerns have been addressed through the conditions that have been proposed. In addition, there's only some outstanding comments from Chuck McGaha, Emergency Management, which we included as a condition of approval that they comply with reporting and all of that he outlined in his memo. But again, I just wanted to reinstate it's a temporary special use permit. It is only for 2 events, those dates outlined in the staff report and also in their narrative. As far as staff until they have provided all the required documentation. So if you have any questions, please let us know. The applicant is in attendance. Oh, I also forgot. Staff does recommend approval of this case in compliance with their temporary special use permit standards.
Thank you. Questions? No questions? Then I'm going to open the public hearing. Do I need to do a vote? Do we need to vote to open the public?
No, Commissioners,
okay.
you just declare the public
hearing is
open and
open.
request a person speaking in opposition and in support of.
Okay. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition of the special use permit? Seeing no one. Anyone here wanting to provide support for the special use permit? Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Here on the
I don't. I think they've answered it. Again, this is it's not just a special use permit, it's a temporary special use permit.
Right.
So definitely there's a difference in the two.
It's for 2 events.
2 categories, and I think
Specific
they've
events.
done everything and worked with staff that we asked them to do, and they're still moving
And we were
forward.
provided with a copy of the
Yeah.
contract for this.
And they're still moving forward with the things that we've for future down the thing with the fire systems and the water systems, stuff like that. Sorry, I couldn't spit it out. To still be on compliant, but this is just for those 2 right now, and I think that's what we need to stay focused on. So I'm very supportive of it.
Okay, well then I will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion to approve case number DEV 23-47, issuing a temporary special use permit for Whiskey Ridge Event Center for 2-week events to be held May 7th and May 27th, 2023, located at 19051 Tonganoxie Drive.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the application of Whiskey Ridge LLC, case number DV 23047, for a temporary special use permit for 2 events to be conducted at 190-501 Tonganoxie Drive, Tonganoxie, Kansas. The permit to be subject to the conditions set forth in the staff report and based upon the evaluation of the application by staff. That evaluation and its findings incorporated into this motion. Further, that this motion takes into account the application golden factors, especially that the proposed use is compatible with the character of the neighborhood, provides economic benefit and gain to the area, and will not detrimentally affect neighboring properties.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A motion is second. I'll begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure seeing you again. Thank you.
Okay, and finally, we need to consider a motion to approve chemical dust control for a portion of George Road during the K-16 Safety Improvement Project through KDOT funding in an amount of $19,609. Welcome, Bill.
Commissioners, today for your consideration is this agreement that we've talked about over the course of the last 6 months. I would have liked to have been sitting here in front of you in December and not the week that the project is starting, obviously. We stayed on KDOT to try to get this agreement in place prior to the project commencing, but here we are today. We did go ahead and schedule the dust control last week preemptively to get this put down. The project will begin next week without that dust control being applied. They said it would be about a 3-week turnaround probably. And I'm trying to nail them down here this week on exactly when that will occur. Hopefully we can get them to push us up in the schedule. It is for 1.67 miles of George Road. It is $19,609. And so I would anticipate a lot of phone calls from that stretch of roadway when the project starts, and this dust control has not been applied. But from a county perspective, we to have this agreement in place because it is part of the KDOT project, and we have just now gotten this.
I had a couple questions.
Question, go ahead.
Is this one application?
Yes, this is one app.
And is it half a gallon per square yard, or what's the application
it's supposed
rate?
to be the typical application rate, which
Okay.
I think isn't that. I believe it's 3/4 of.
Oh, really?
I think it was
Okay.
for a year application cycle, and so they do different concentrations.
Right.
I think they always spray at the same rate, but then the concentration
It's like 38%.
38%.
Yeah.
So they did they did the regular percentage. Basically, 1 gallon will cover one linear foot of roadway in a 21-foot wide road. So it was $1.52 a foot, more or less. They did it by the gallon, which I found unusual. Usually, when you see Scott,
By square yard.
yes, and then you had to convert the gallon into the square yardage and calculate the amount, which was completed. I do have those calculations downstairs. That KDOT bid this in October, and that's when we were anticipating seeing this agreement. Was shortly after that bid went out, but
Okay.
it was a per gallon bid, which is I found unusual.
And we requested this back in what month?
I believe September,
September?
maybe August, when we heard about the
Okay.
project.
All right.
Their communication has been a little wanting.
Okay, but that's fine. I know we're talking about this particular road, but we got Tongi Road coming up, and we've got one road, that Mitchell Road. I brought it up before, and we agreed to close it, and put the close on it, because that's the only road that cuts through, and it's a shorter distance than this. And I'd like to do the same thing on Mitchell Road to ask the state if they'll pay for this all on that one also, because this is also.
Well, for part of that project, we did do the field check for that a couple weeks ago, and we do have a meeting coming up next Thursday in the office check. KDOT's requesting to close that road entirely during the project because it would be in the middle of the project. The project is on both sides of it, and so the residents along Mitchell Road would have to exit to the west, probably go back north, but there wouldn't be cut-through traffic. On these high-risk rural roads projects, they tend to close the entire stretch of roadway for those projects.
Yeah, but people still live on that road that have to have access to their homes.
Yeah, there would be people living on the road, but
But they just have to go around.
They're
and
gonna
I know, but
direct.
they're not going to close it completely off at Stranger Creek Bridge. Or people are going to get snaked through there, and they're going to go up Mitchell Road, just like we're talking about the scenarios that they're going to take care of all these other roads we're talking about. You know, this is the only road that somebody could cut between Tongi Road and County Road 9, 207th Street. So I'd like to have the same consideration as we had on George Road.
I can make that request for sure.
Well, this is up to the boards. I'm not one commissioner trying to tell what to do. I would just like the consensus of the board to have the same consideration.
I think that's fair.
I'd say have that conversation would be.
Well, but this job's going to be let in September, and
Better get ahead
Yeah,
of
but
it.
didn't he say he was meeting with them? Is that what you said?
I have
there?
a meeting.
With them.
We have our office check plan meeting with KDOT next Thursday for that project, and so I can make that request to them next
Okay.
Thursday.
I'm okay with that.
Whether it's in
All right.
September or not, they are indicating that they don't really want it to be. I mean, and I agree with this. They don't want it to be an over winter project where it shuts down because it's a lot of asphalt work and putting shoulders
Right.
on the roadways. So whether we bid it, I honestly don't foresee that project bidding in September. I think that they'll want to push it because they won't want a contractor to bid the project
then
6
have that
months in
delay.
advance of starting it. When
Right.
they can't
come back for a change order.
and then come back for your oil price index
Cost,
change orders,
yeah,
right,
and cost
yeah,
adjustments
yeah.
and everything else. So I think that they will move that letting into January more than likely, because they don't want it to be an overwinter project, and you can't bid it in September and have it completed
Right.
before November 15th.
Okay. Well, it's coming though.
Well, it doesn't
We've
hurt
got,
to ask.
We've got approval for it, so.
Yeah, I'll definitely
All
make
right.
that
Well,
request.
thank you. Thank the board.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Need a motion?
need a motion?
Commissioner Stevens' district.
Oh, just a second. Got to get the reading glasses here. Motion to approve chemical dust control for a portion of George Road during case 16 safety improvement project through KDOT, funding in the amount of $19,609.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting. Oh, any other discussion?
Yeah.
I just think we need to really monitor this whole project because I think we're going to get a lot of calls on it.
You will.
You are.
Mr. Carlson, did you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that I want to make sure everybody understands that KDOT is paying for this chemical, not Leavenworth County, because we had a situation in my district where a bridge was closed, had a very long detour down a gravel road. I asked for chemical, and I was told the county doesn't do that. So the only reason I'm voting for this is because the county's not paying for it, KDOT is paying for it.
And if this will be what happens in the future more often, maybe they'll start paying for it. Because we've got a lot of bridges that are going to have to be closed.
Yep, that's something that's going to have to be addressed because it's going to be a big project catching up on these bridges. So,
one more comment. I think we just want to emphasize to folks that this is not a county project out on K-16. We have the ability to talk and communicate with them and negotiate with them, but in the end, the state is making the decisions.
Yep.
Correct. It's a state project. Okay.
And we're lucky to get funding for projects in our county. I wish we had a lot more going on.
Anything else? Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll begin the voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Presentations and discussion items. Anybody have anything else they'd like to?
Yeah, I've got a few things.
Okay, I'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. A couple things. Attended the joint meeting with the other county commissioners. Reference downtown. You referenced that road that's falling apart, and something came very clear to me is that, you know, if the county's going to be involved in something, the conversation, even though it's fantastic to have the projects, the conversations need to be happening ahead of time before we get down the road, little pun, so we can make sure that everybody's on board and what the process is. Also, I'll have lunch this Friday with the City of Lansing. The mayor is doing this thing for the first time in a few years. On Saturday, the Lansing Fishing Derby is 9 to 11. Any youngsters up to 15 want to attend? We've stocked the fish, so they're ready to commit suicide. Fire District meeting for Fire District 1 is ongoing, trying to resolve some of the issues on who's doing what and stuff like that, and they're in the early stages, but it was, considering what it had been in the past, it seemed like it was a more civil meeting. And one last thing, Commissioner Stephen and I attended the Kansas Association Commissioners meeting in Hayes, and a couple of topics that came up was, of course, the local ad valorem demand transfers. It was good to see that over 65, I think 67 of the counties were represented, which is over half. So it was a good meeting. Mike talked on the property tax, and there's a lot of agreement, but there's a lot of issues going back and forth on information that probably needs to get out, be clarified. But Mike did a good job of that. I spoke on the local ad valorem, and I'll tell you, folks, this went on for a good amount of time. Again, it was obvious to me that a lot of the county commissioners out there, or someone new, did not recognize the amount of funding that they were being deprived of by state statute. So during the meeting, I asked Bruce, who's the executive director of our association, to make copies. We passed it out during a break time, and that got their attention. And so we continue to talk about that. I also recommended to the group that we team up with the League of Municipalities, which is the counterpart of ours for the cities, and that was passed, and they're going to be doing that. Also agreed that we're going to be putting out information, videos, and more information going out to all the areas in Kansas from our organization, along with the League of Municipalities, if they participate, and I don't see why they wouldn't. They've all supported it. And there's support for that was, I didn't see a negative thing on that at all, Mike. I don't think there was one on that. Also, we talked about, from our reps up there and the lobbyists for our commissioners about the votes that's been coming up. And even though I know the representatives in Kansas tried to attach something to it, they were more than majority supportive of putting that back in place. The place that was not supported was the senators, and I just brought it up for me, not for the rest of the thing. I was a little frustrated because this is the third time we've done this. I even spoke to the group about a lawsuit. Not saying I'm saying we should do that, but I'm just saying I did bring that up, and it was recommended to me, or reminded me that 3 years ago that, or 2003, quite a few years ago, that they tried that, and then that's when the representatives and senators start moving it down every year, kicking the can down the road, which we've heard before up here. And I spoke again. I said, listen, this lawsuit, even if you lose, we need to get the information out there. So, I look at it like this. Have you ever been in a fight in school, and you go in it, whether you win or lose, everybody gets hurt, and it's not something you want to do again. And I think that's what I was trying to get across, is we got to get the information out to them. But, and everybody's in agreement, and I'll let Mike speak on it when it comes to his turn if I'm missing something. But I have to say, and I even mentioned that we put out a letter that the county commissioners paid for to draw attention to this a couple of years ago, not the taxpayers, but the people up at this board. And they liked that. In fact, we'll probably see some more of that. But I have to say that I've seen more movement since we started, since I've been fortunate enough to be on this board the last 2.5 years. There's more interest, and there's more concern about why we're not getting this. Everybody's up for election in 2 year and a half, including senators. And this is the time to make sure we ask the question, do you or don't you support it? Not hee-haw around, yes or no, do you or do you not support it? But the time is right now to get something done that's ever going to be done, because, and I have to hand it to this board for getting this information out, because people are talking about it now, folks. It's not just sitting and we talk about it and then come budget time and it's all forgotten until we go to property tax and like that. It's being discussed, and we had a good discussion on that. I think Commissioner Steven will vouch for that on that issue. So there's a lot of stuff that went through on the meetings we had and stuff like that. Good group of people, good instructors. But that was the key thing we spoke about on those days in Hayes. So,
do you know how many times that representatives told me they supported that, and then they go to Topeka and they don't? So
just forget.
But the thing that's coming up,
forget that.
the thing that's coming up, and this time it includes senators.
In my brain.
If I could just add one thing, this time it's coming up next year when we do it. Two things. If you see me, if the mill levy has to increase and stay flat, I'm going to look right at the camera and say, talk to your representatives and your senators, because you are affecting 3 mills at least. The county could be drawing 4. Probably 4. I'm being conservative. But the other thing is, we've got everybody up for election now. This is the time to ask these folks that, and if they don't do it then, well, I don't know. There's only a couple things left to do, and I really don't want to go down that road yet. But what I'm trying to get across is the information that I think this group started here, y'all started, is finally getting out. And I think you can see it with our local reps from the way they're talking about saying, well, we're trying to do things, put 4% on stuff. It's out there. So let's not let this die. Let's have the citizens continue with the elected officials, continue to pound and say, listen, we need this to help it. You've got, I'm going to forget how many billions of dollars you've had the last few years, surplus. Give it back to the people. I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead.
Now, do you have anything?
Just attended Fairmount Township last week, and we did JCAB in Atchison. The Tongi meeting Monday night, and then Law Day. We all went to.
Yeah,
Law
I forgot
Day.
about that. Yeah.
And I think that's about it.
And with the Law Day, we just need to give the shout out again
Oh,
to
yeah,
Linda
to
Shear and
Mayor.
to Jermaine Wilson for the
Liberty
being
Awards.
recipients
Yeah.
of the Liberty Bell Awards. And they were both very well deserving of that recognition.
It's been a while since we had Law Day.
Yeah.
COVID is winding down.
Yep, COVID is winding down, I hope.
Commissioner Stephen, do you have anything?
Well, just a couple things. We did have our property tax task force in Tonganoxie, and we had a lot of people came. A lot of people concerned about property taxes. You know, I'm just trying to educate them that we only have X amount of power. That they think the county commissioners have all this power on property taxes, but we only have limited power. We do have the power of the bully pulpit to put a letter out or to talk to our representatives, but we're limited in our power. But people are concerned about it. They are going to be watching during the budget process, and it is just. But to educate them that we only control, 24 to 26?
Yeah, 26, I think it is, Mike. Yeah.
Depending on what school district you're in.
Yeah. So that was good. I've been fielding and went to the meeting, Tonganoxie. I think those are real important issues on that road, especially when you're getting more industry coming in. And I will say one thing, the board, when I first came on the board, we didn't have hardly anybody out at the industrial park, and now we're almost going to, we're going to have 2 spots left after this is done. So we're filling up the industrial park at Tonganoxie, so that's a good thing.
And they're large companies. They're very large.
Well, that's what the county has the other.
But they're tax abated.
Yeah, that's true.
But the school tax, they get part of that. That does go in. That's not abatable.
Maybe the school will build the road.
Either you say that. So, and then on the K-16 lots, I'm already getting lots of calls on that. So.
Well, but that's, complaining in advance is kind of.
And we did meet with the fire department yesterday out there to talk about what apparently they were promised, and now we're getting a little discrepancy between what they were promised and what's happening as far as being able to get the trucks through. So we'll see how that comes out. They're trying to have a meeting, but those are things. Those are some big things.
But we're not the people to complain about that too. They need to turn around and complain to the state of Kansas, not to the county commission. So I mean, we don't control.
But they do
that.
complain to us.
Well, but we cannot control that. What is not our responsibility.
Didn't make Easton City meeting because we had the Tonganoxie City meeting Monday night. And then Tuesday night, last night, had the Leavenworth City meeting. I met with our new counselor, Misty, and went over what I think is a couple of top priorities. One was working on junk properties, getting them cleaned up. We're going to go through the regulations. Dave's put a bunch of information together already to see if we can beef up our enforcement on cleaning up junk properties. I also went over with her the high-pressure gas line resolution we want to present to get high-pressure gas lines reburied in the county. And I went over the LAVTR and gave her my folder of all the information I've got, and we're putting together a list of other cities and counties that are very interested that have reached out to me over the last 2 years so we can get a list together. I was waiting for this legislation time period to play out to see if they were going to do anything. That looks like it's coming to an end.
As promised.
And so I think it's time, as Commissioner Smith indicated, to go to the next step. So we're putting together a list of people to join in on that.
The League of Municipalities, I never thought about partnering with them.
Yep, and they're on my list too. So there'll be an actual coalition of people to launch this. And then the last thing, there's a company that Commissioner Smith gave me an article in the Sentinel about a company that was working on pilot check for a county that recently had some Indian lands expanded. So they're going after pilot checks, payment in lieu of taxes for that land since it comes off the tax roll, and they lose that revenue, similar to what problem we have with the $2.8 billion valuation in Leavenworth County that's exempt from taxes from federal exemptions. So we're putting a list together on that of similar counties that have this issue. And I'm going to be coming to you guys in the near future to ask for going in on that group, going after a pilot check.
Jackson County, Kansas.
Jackson County is.
Their paper's called that.
Yeah, and this firm is made up of.
That's not the one you're thinking of.
And this firm is made up of ex-legislators that have pull in D.C. already and connections. And so from the conversations that I've had with them, it's probably the most promising I've heard since I've started this 4 years ago.
And their fees are very
It's about time,
reasonable.
huh?
Yeah.
The fees are reasonable, and there's no
And that's
law,
exactly.
It's a year contract,
And that's the reason we're reaching out to more counties, because the more we can get involved, the cheaper it is.
Exactly.
So,
It's brought up.
that's it.
Okay, well, with Doug, we did the JCAP meeting and the Liberty Bell with the Law Day for myself. And then over the weekend, I attended the Gala of Hope, which was a very nice and well-attended meeting, and with a lot of younger people that participated in that fundraiser. And it was nice to see young people becoming involved in supporting our local nonprofit organizations. And that was done to support the shelter here in Leavenworth. And let's see, I participated in the KCATA board meeting last Wednesday afternoon. And just a reminder to people, this weekend, Friday night, is the night at the races for the fundraiser for CASA. And so it's a really great event, fun event, and an organization that is great to support. And I don't have anything else, so if we don't...
I just had one question, I guess, for Mr. Lawfrey. When they announced these projects or these businesses coming in, the county has no notice that this is going to happen until the announcement. I mean, we're not in the loop when it comes to, hey, we're going to be putting extra truck traffic on one of your roads.
No, we're not a part of their negotiation process on any of those. I think, we get the same information that anybody who attends any of the LCDC meetings gets typically, which is we're working on Project Marshmallow or...
Well, I know. Is there anything that could change in the future on that?
We need to,
because when we get dropped these businesses on one of our roads, or half of our road, let's put it that way, it's half our road.
And I don't know the LCDC's involvement. I know the city said that they were heavily involved in both of these projects.
Well, it doesn't need to be LCDC.
The board has asked in the past to be part of the executive team, which is part of those negotiations, and they were turned down. So I think that we attempted from board direction, and that it was turned down. So
okay, because it just seems that if the county had a little heads up, maybe could have had a little say in the matter, saying that we at least need a traffic impact fee or something on these roads.
The ball's being dropped on that. That should not be part of the
Commissioner, we are
procedure.
working right now on what we believe is a good template for any development that happens in Leavenworth County as far as a development agreement goes.
Right.
And in that template, we contemplate the impact that the development has on roads in the area. Any development typically has some kind of off-site impact, and you take that into consideration. But the time to have those conversations are when you're negotiating up front with the group, not after the fact when traffic's already on there. So, we're late to the game in this case, and in fact, the night we had the meeting,
I think I pointed that out.
The night we had the meeting, they had just announced earlier that day that they were bringing another business in. I think that earlier in the meeting we discussed that we need to have a work session on what we're going to do or what we can do, really, in the particular instance of this road. But again, we're right now in the midst of working out a development agreement with county staff and our consultants.
Right.
And I think it's a really good template, and I think we should follow that template. However, in this case, those developments are in the city, not in the county.
Right.
So we're not part of that. We can't interject ourselves without an invitation.
Right, and we need to be invited.
Well,
It's just a smart thing to do.
I think, Vicki, who's our chair? Vicki, or do you oversee? Is it Mike? Who's at the meetings for the LCDC?
I usually am at both.
Somebody needs to bring this up until I know Tom's putting information out to make this work, and he's been working hard on it. But we cannot have, even if it's a city, doing this without us being involved. We're all in this together. And I look at that Tonganoxie as a good example of we should have been made aware of this a long time ago.
The problem with this is I've seen firsthand what happens when you let all the information out of the bag right up front.
Right, I
It'll
understand
kill
that
a
too.
project.
Exactly.
So how do we
can't ask
find
that.
out about things like this without causing that problem?
I guess it goes back to when the industrial park was developed, the road should have been done at that time and figured out who was paying for what.
Well, hindsight is
But-
20/20, right?
But it's kind of hard to do.
I mean, if there's a
Build
way.
a road for what if. When we
Exactly.
got roads that are
Yeah.
so dusty now and got a lot of traffic on that we need to pay, you know.
I think that is a really good point, because when it's an industrial park, we know we're going to have multiple businesses there, and we know, so we knew ahead of, not this board, but when they developed it, they knew,
No,
so
we
that
were
should have
here.
been,
We were here.
well, part of it.
This was the,
for part
this
of
is
it.
Tonganoxie's.
Yeah,
thing,
I mean,
so
we were here for part of it, but
It's not,
but it was,
that's a,
But the good
Not
news,
the
we were here
counties.
too.
but the good news about this is we've changed with the resolution the way we operate now and things like this. When a
Right.
city annexes property, they have to
They take the
annex the
whole road.
entire street. They can no longer annex to the center of the road.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I
we
was part of
fixed
those
we
years
fixed
ago,
that
yeah.
problem. So this wouldn't be a problem
Right.
if it were to happen today.
So I did want to point out one thing I forgot to bring up is, and I compliment to the Board of County Commissioners here, because for 3 or 4 years, we've been bringing up this LEVTR.
Longer than that.
And when I went to the first meeting of the county commissioners, it was not brought, nothing was said about it. And then the next year, a little bit was said, and then the next year, but I can tell you this year, this was on their radar.
We made sure.
Well, I know when
It's hard to
when
sit
Jeff
back
and I went to the meeting, it was, and it was first brought up and announced, I can tell you when it kind of came to the meetings that were for the countywide was when Commissioner Shimke and I were at the meeting in wherever it was, Wichita or Topeka, whichever one that was, and it was brought to our attention then, and it really didn't gain a whole lot of traction, except that Chad and I came back and then they had really begun to discuss it, but Doug and I had been at a meeting where we had discussed it when we went to Gary County or Riley County.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, that was back,
And-
that had to be in 8, were you here in 18, 19? I don't know.
18.
18 or
I think it was
19?
18,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
and
we
so-
were gaining a lot of traction then.
But it
But
just,
then the pandemic hit, and then the people we were dealing with got voted out of office.
but we still
Whoops.
have, we still have one.
Well,
Commissioner Ford
yeah. that grew
is
up
still,
here in
and
Leavenworth,
he was, but he is still on that, so
Yeah.
he's the one that we really need to keep, you know, working
I was
with
just
to discuss
impressed
it.
at how much it's on their agenda, and I think, and they said this is the first time they had a solid majority in the House.
Well, we brought it up to last year, I mean, in Kansas City, and we were really
That's-
very vocal about it, and I think that there was
That's
some
how they've
interest
gotten
in.
away for all them years, with
So.
elected officials leaving,
It's when we can get the-
administrators leaving, department heads leaving.
That's the
They
problem,
just
Doug.
Continue on,
But we
and
just-
then everybody's
to get
complacent with this. and
That's
it
the problem.
from the
happens
more
every year.
rural counties,
Because
when they start buying in, then
we
things
passed
can
out
start
that
happening.
purple sheet with all the counties out there, and all those counties, 67 of them, have a chance to look at it. A lot of people weren't on, they're new. They haven't been on that long.
Right.
It got the conversation going, because
Which is
that's
cool.
nothing, looking at your county, and that's not counting the cities. That's just looking at your county saying, are you kidding me?
And it's money that was collected from
We
the
made,
county.
we
For
made sure
that
they
purpose.
understood
For
that.
that purpose.
For that purpose.
It's not like it's
for
money
the
you're getting
relief.
from other counties.
Right.
It's the money that was
They
collected.
wanted to take the microphone away from me and Mike, except my
Okay.
guy.
But anyway.
Well, if we don't have anything further, I'll
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, beginning.
Aye.
Aye.
Are we going to go right to the work session?
Yep.
Are we
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
go
Well,
right to the
somebody
work
might
session?
want to,
Aye.
somebody want to.
5 minutes?